is Volusia Today, a public information radio program brought to you by the County of Volusia. Here is your host, Kevin Captain.
Good morning and welcome to Volusia Today. I'm Kevin Captain with the county's Community Information Division, and today I'm with David Hunt. He's also with the Community Information Division. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. Volusia Today is made possible by our sponsors, the Daytona Beach International Airport, the Ocean Center, Volusia Recycles, and Votran Public Transportation. Dave, what's shaking at the beach these days?
Oh, Kevin, it is packed, and we're expecting 90-degree weather this weekend, so I'm sure it's going to be packed again. But we're lucky today to have two of the busiest, most professional, most knowledgeable people in the county, or people I've ever met, in the studio with us to talk to us about the beach and everything you need to know.
I couldn't agree with you more, Dave. We've got Jessica Fentress. She's the director of the county's coastal division. And we've got Niles Cyzycki. He's also the activity project manager for the coastal division. So this is technically part 3 of our coastal recovery series. The last time we had you both in the studio was in, I believe it was late January. And we covered a ton of information, including damage from Hurricanes Ian and Nicole, the coastal division's role in recovery, the recovery plans, the coastal openings, and really a whole heck of a lot more. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to those shows, they are available on the county's YouTube page, which is County of Volusia YouTube. So definitely go back and check them out. So starting off right away, we hear that there's going to be a swath of this Sargassum stuff that's coming our way. Is that, who wants to touch? Should we panic?
Don't panic.
Why shouldn't we panic, Niles?
You know, Volusia County's, take on seaweed on the beach and stuff is that it's a great building block to dune, enhancement. The seabirds like it. You see them picking through it. A lot of folks that look for sea beans and seaborne seeds love to pick through it and look at it. It's like I said, it does collect sand, and the county's policy has been always to leave it. And that's where we're at right now. Not sure what's going to happen as far as, is this going to be significantly more than we see, every year. It'll depend on what the wind's like when this grass is offshore of us. But right now, no reason to panic. The beaches are open and beautiful, and maybe this will be a great building block to help us recover some sand in the near future.
Are there any spaghetti models for the seaweed that we can check out?
I haven't seen one.
Spaghetti miles.
Yeah, there was. We had. It's been out in the news, so everybody's been seeing it. Have we ever had like a lot? I've always seen it on the beach. It comes around year round, really. I see it at different times. But have we ever had like a mass amount on our beach? And if so, what did we do anything differently than we normally do? Or
yeah, back in, it was either 2017 or 2018, we had a fairly significant accumulation in the Daytona Beach shores area. It was between 18 inches and 30 inches thick.
Wow.
In that case, you can find anything and everything in it. It looked like there was an old metal hospital bed that came out, refrigerators, any sort of flotsam you might find in the ocean. I think an iguana even showed up that time, a live iguana. So, I know.
Wow, that's weird.
Usually you see it come ashore and it's just an inconvenience. It's ugly, unsightly, and then, after a week or two it starts smelling. When it comes in that large amounts, it starts becoming a pedestrian hazard. And where we have permission to take the sargassum and move it behind our conservation poles to allow for even a faster accretion of our dune system. We've been in direct communications with the Florida Department of Emergency Management, as well as the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Both of them are communicating with the governor's office. They are monitoring it, and they're looking to see if any conditions need to be waived to help us take advantage of this opportunity.
But the good thing is, though, it has that, it's like a magnet, you said, kind of like for sand. So, it's probably great to have this amount coming in our way.
Oh, it's a Band-Aid. As soon as it gets on our beaches, it lessens the impact of the wave. It traps the sediment behind it or under it. So as the waves come up and pull back, it's not pulling the sand away. If you were a private property owner, and I believe the Towers and Ponce Inlet did this the last time it came ashore, What I would urge is a community volunteer day where you just go out and you start picking the vegetation up and putting it at the base of your seawall, at the toe of your dune, at your escarpment. Collect that, put it up there, and it will help you. It will also help eventually vegetate your accreted sand, because that stuff decomposes and it's got seeds and all sorts of things to help your vegetation grow. So it truly is a Band-Aid. It's nature's way of trying to repair naturally. That's
a wonderful thing to hear, especially what you hear in the media. It's a good thing. I hope we do get some of it. A lot of people might have just moved here and don't know. You don't want to play in it. It could cause skin irritation. You kind of want to leave it alone, let it do its thing, let it naturally do its thing. If you see some trash, pick it out of there, because it does collect some trash, correct?
Yeah, please take a 5-gallon bucket, just grab it, put your trash in the bucket, and toss it near our nearest trash can. We would appreciate that, because it's just impractical for us to go and pick through all of it.
And you could start practicing that whenever. It's not just when the Sargassum seaweed arrives. You can just take a bucket to the beach and pick up trash as well. We'd appreciate that. I know you guys work nonstop picking trash up off the beach, and community assistance always helps. And then when you see those people on the beach walking down the beach with a bucket in your hand, you look at them, and I swear to you, everybody will stop you and say thank you for what you're doing and have a conversation with you, and you're really helping everybody in the community. We have a lot of important things to talk about today, a lot of funding and things, but I figure while we're on nature and nature's impacts on recovery, can we talk a little bit more about how nature has been kind of affecting our recovery? I remember,
I think nature has been kind to us this winter. We haven't had a lot of, erosion events, significant northeasters. It's been pretty calm. December was nice and calm. Until last week, we had a really calm, early spring. My dad used to say March comes in like a lion and goes out like a lamb. Hopefully it'll calm down here in this last week of March. But we didn't see the lion, I didn't feel like, this year. We didn't see a massive northeaster that really eroded significantly. That being said, we've had high tides this week, and the ocean's been up to the seawalls. Really no beach at high tide, which is, still a little concerning about what could happen in the event of a significant storm event. So that's why we're trying to, kind of jumpstart this trap bag program, get it going, and provide some folks protection that don't have it right now.
And Niles, you guys are working day by day, opening up more walkovers, providing pedestrian access, and we keep, harping on anybody who wants to go to the beach, do a little homework. Download the Volusia Beaches app.
Absolutely.
Go to volusia.org/beach, and you can get all the latest updates as far as access goes. But what are we at right now in terms of walkovers? You've got over half of them opened back up, right?
Yeah, we're just over 80 walkovers out of our 140 that are open.
That's amazing.
You can go and you can get real-time updates on how you can access the beach, both vehicular, off-beach parking, and then, vehicular access onto the beach, off-beach parking opportunities, as well as open pedestrian walkways. I just pulled the app up, and it's telling me we have a high tide today. Today's Friday. At 11 o'clock. So that means you're going to have a midday high tide all weekend. You're going to have a noon high tide on Saturday. You're going to have a 1 o'clock high tide on Sunday. If you're coming to the beach, you need to come very early or you need to come very late. And if you decide to come in the middle of the day, be prepared to have to find off-beach parking. The core of Daytona is not going to have a lot of parking availability in that time of day with that high tide. I would urge you to go to Ormond by the Sea. I would urge you to go to South New Smyrna and the Niles area. You definitely have to plan your trips to the beach a little bit more now in advance. You can't just show up with a pub sub and,
Homework.
And we've talked about it a couple times. We've talked about it. We try to stress it, but it's extremely important. If you are going to the beach at the high tide mark, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be frustrated because you're going to have to search. You're going to have to find. You're going to be driving around. It's not the same as it used to be. So please plan. It's the most important thing you can do, and be patient. We're working as hard. Yeah.
Well, and as Niles said, you may find a parking spot, but then after you find your parking spot and you get down to the beach, you may have 5 or 6 feet between the water and the seawall, and you're crammed up there with the rest of the people. Truly early morning and late afternoon are going to be your best times out there.
And we're always talking about the most important thing when you go to the beach is to stay in front of that staffed lifeguard tower.
You can find lifeguard towers on the app as well.
Which is great.
And when we talk about the pedestrian access and the openings, I was over there last week. You're all over the news, so we're over there doing news interviews. You're always trying to communicate the information and let people know what's going on. But we were talking about the openings that you had gotten done in 1 week and the excitement throughout your division and what that means to you and the passion and the work starting to pay off. So when we're talking about the recovery, can you kind of like break down the small wins and then all the way to the long-term goals in the recovery? And like how are we winning today, and how are we going to win 10 years from now?
So right now we are trying to open up as much access as possible. As Niles said earlier, nature is being really sweet to us. She's giving us a lot of sand. In some places we've accreted 4 feet of sand from right after hurricanes Nicole. In those areas, we're putting walkovers in. We didn't think we were going to hit any of the walkovers and get them open in Wilbur by the Sea until, next off season. But through our relationships with the Department of Environmental Protection, through the gift of the sand that we've received through nature, we're able to pivot on those decisions, and we can just open up some of these walkovers now to give access back to our public. We are still working through some of the details with construction during turtle season. I don't have that solidified yet. I still think there's a path forward. I would urge everybody who is looking at permanent repairs to their property, get your permit finished. Call your engineer up. Ask what your status is. They are releasing permits. If you're fighting over where the seawall or where your rock revetment might be, take the permit, fix your seawall. Don't lose your property just to gain another 5 feet that you may never not get. Long term, we are setting up for a feasibility study. You'll probably get into it later about the grant funding. But we do have a plan for the next 50 years, and it's going to involve a lot of feedback from our residents, our communities. What works in Daytona will not work in Ponce. What works in South New Smyrna will not work for North New Smyrna. So we're anticipating a lot of feedback from every reach of our coastline.
We know that we've had some people complain about, well, why is my walkover not up and running, or why isn't the ramp open? But truth be told, and especially for Dave and I, we're close up front. We see all the progress that's being done every week. Maybe not everybody out in the public does, but I like how you said it once, Jessica. You said, every walkover, every beach access point is a personal thing to, a resident. But the reality is you're working as hard as you can, and you also have restrictions of your own. The county's got to get permits just like anybody else. And then we've got that FEMA component that also applies with taxpayer reimbursement. How does that all work?
So the easiest sure shot on expediting any sort of FEMA approval is doing it in-house. We recognize that this is not our first hurricane, so we are pulling trades workers who have carpentry skills from other divisions in the county, and they are putting their time towards helping us get our walkovers open. We've had a lot of offers from the community. Let us just rebuild the walkover. We'll do it ourselves. I really appreciate the offer to do that, and that's outstanding. But when you have a public walkover, there's a lot of liability, everything from people who get splinters in their hands to trip on a screw. We don't want any of the private residences to be susceptible. So just be patient. We have a ton of access. We've opened up access in every stretch of our coastline. Just let us get there. We will get there.
And if you do want to help out, you can grab a bucket and a picker and head down to the beach and pick up that trash, because that's never going to stop, and it's a good practice year-round. When you're talking about opening pedestrian walkovers, beach ramps, it's not a base standard solution, is it? You're constantly monitoring the situation and getting creative, right?
And it changes every day. The Amelia Beach Ramp south of Dunlawton and the El Portal Beach Ramp north of Dunlawton across the street from 7-Eleven, those suffered significant failures where the asphalt is gone. There was a 3-foot hole in front of the seawall. Under our, the county, because we had asphalt there to begin with, we're allowed to put temporary measures in place. So we put backfill in so that, on sunny, beautiful days, you can drive and use those ramps. But the reality is that if we get a rain event, those ramps are going to wash out because they're not permanent repairs. I don't have stormwater infrastructure in place. So it's a very dynamic situation, so much that the ramp you enter in the morning may not be usable if we get one of those, massive afternoon thunderstorms during the summer. So it's every single day we take heed of what our availabilities are, what the conditions are, and we have to make operational calls. We strive to have our access open on weekends. We do a lot of our repairs during the weekdays, and then we're trying to make it as convenient for the public as possible. I don't think waiting 2 years to repair some of this stuff is acceptable. If we can make the repairs and we have the resources to do it, we are doing it. We're trying to find ways to open up Frank Rendon Park in the next couple of months, even if it's just the basic level of access onto the sand. You may not have the pavilion amenities, you may not have other amenities that you're used to, but if I can give a solid parking lot with safe access onto the sand, that's a win. We'll take that while we work through the long-term progress to get the seawalls rebuilt.
Clearly, you guys are doing exactly what you can do and as much as you can do. We're talking with Jessica Fentress and Niles Cyzycki with the Coastal Division. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue to talk about the future of our coast. Stay with us.
Driving over an hour to catch a cheaper flight only saves you time and money if you make it on time. Traffic, long lines at security, and searching for parking can cost you time and money. Skip the trip before the trip and fly local from Daytona Beach International Airport. Enjoy easy parking, short security lines, world-class customer service, and more. Time flies, but will you? Start planning your trip today at flydaytonafirst.com.
There's always something happening at Volusia County's Ocean Center. Visit oceancenter.com for upcoming events.
Stop. Before you throw that soda can out the window, do you know how long it will take to break down? 100 years. Soda cans are biodegradable. In 100 years. 100 ugly years before that soda can goes away. So stop and recycle that soda can. We can all recycle at our jobs or in our homes. Keep Volusia County beautiful. A message from the Solid Waste Division of Volusia County Government.
So,
We're back. I'm David Hunt along with Kevin Captain, and you're listening to Volusia Today, a public information program brought to you by the County of Volusia.
thanks, Dave. So let's talk a little bit about the grant funding that Governor DeSantis appropriated through the FDEP. We first got $5 million, and then he allocated months later $37.6 million. What are we doing with that money?
Well, the initial $5 million is going to trap bag system along stretches of the coast that have no armoring right now, right? There isn't an existing seawall. They haven't put in temporary armoring. These are basically properties that are susceptible to erosion.
What is a trap bag, though?
And a trap bag is just a large sandbag. They're 4x4, and you fill them with sand. You kind of put water on the sand to compact it down. It kind of bellies out. And we've just seen them be very successful up and down the coast after the storm. They were installed a lot by private contractors, et cetera. So we saw that system worked. We've worked with Trap Bag to come up with a 2-bag system and a scour skirt that we're planning to install about 5 miles of up and down the county. And we're looking for that to be kind of the first line of defense in this hurricane season to protect some private and public properties up and down the beach. So that's kind of where the $5 million went. It's about 100,000 cubic yards of sand spread throughout this trap bag system up and down the coast. And you'll see it be implemented next week. We're going to start on the beach. If you've received an easement in the mail, please have it notarized, fill it out, record it with the county, send them in. I've seen, our return rate is maybe 30% now, something like that. So there's a lot of easement letters out there that we need returned. Susceptible properties received these easement letters the last couple of weeks. So if you're listening and are interested in the trap bag system, you received an easement in the mail, fill it out and get it back to us ASAP.
And so that covers the $5 million. What about the $37.6?
So the $37.6 million is from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and there are some requirements that go along with this money, like any free money, right?
Sure.
So one of the requirements is that it's used for sand placement as needed. We are in communication with the United States Army Corps of Engineers and the Florida Inland Navigation District. I cannot speak well enough about the Florida Inland Navigation District. The 100,000 plus cubic yards Niles referenced is coming from a Florida Inland Navigation District site. The Army Corps of Engineers is getting approximately 700,000 cubic yards additional out of the next iteration of the inlet and the ICW dredging. And then we just went into an agreement this past week with the Florida Inland Navigation District for offloading of Rattlesnake Island, which is another 500,000 cubic yards. So we have over 1 million cubic yards that we are posing to put on the beach. What this will look like is once we exhaust the maybe 300 properties along our shoreline that does not have temporary armament or permanent armament in place, we're looking to do sand placement in most likely a berm dune replenishment scenario where we put about 20 cubic yards per linear foot of sand on property. Even if you didn't receive an easement agreement, give us a ring. We'll take the easement that's just for sand placement. It expires in 5 years, so it doesn't run for the life of the property, and that kind of gives us a goal point to get to the end game. So we're going to use part of that $30 million or $37 million grant to offload this material, transport this material, and then we will be initiating a feasibility study with partnership with the DEP where we look at the historical shoreline rates of our county, all the way from Flagler County down to Canaveral National Seashore. We will have public input meetings where the public can come and tell us what they want their beach to look like. The methods that you do for an area that has beach driving will be different from the methods that have a natural beach management area. We want to make sure the public's on board with what that might look like. And then it sets you up for, what is our beach going to look like in 50 years? We've got our short-term program already set. We're working through the progress. I anticipate in the next 6 to 7 months, you'll start seeing construction contracts roll out, hopefully. We'll start placement this coming off season on the 2 large offloads. And then, we want the community's feedback. Big time. We want to know if you want to see vegetated dunes. We want to know about walls. We want to know what do you want your coastline to look like. As we go through this feasibility study, that will set us up for future partnerships for grant money from DEP, from federal resources, and it makes our application with the Corps of Engineers that much stronger.
So you just said a lot of super helpful information. I know it's tough with timelines because there's so much cooperation with state and federal partners. The environment changes daily. It's really hard to put a hard timeline on anything. But to frame up the entire recovery process, would it be fair to say that the temporary repairs, the beach access is what's been done and what we're doing, and then the midway through, it would be the trap bag system, and then past that, it would be these big long-term projects, resiliency plans, and all that. Could you just maybe put that in a couple sentence, not a hard timeline, but just a general thought process on your thoughts on that, and how long will that last, and how long is that going to go on for?
So immediate rest of the calendar year, we are going to continue opening up our public access points. We will start construction in November on a couple of projects to improve and restore access where we lost seawalls, we lost ramps, things like that. End of the year, we also should be we'll be continuing to put trap bags on the beach until we have no more trap bags to go. We will spend all of the 180,000 cubic yards of material until it is spent. Next year, 2024, I anticipate offload of the core dredge material and the rattlesnake material into dune placement along our shoreline. In 2024, I also expect to see some of the larger seawall repairs like Frank Rendon Park commence. 2025 is where we will start wrapping up our feasibility study and proposing to implement the first phase of construction. We're also working very closely with the Department of Environmental Protection and our state legislature because they are proposing the governor's budget. And right now in the governor's budget is full funding of the DEP recovery plan. That may be an additional $40 million that comes our way for a total of over $80 million in state relief money that the governor's making available, should that be passed in this legislative session.
Yeah, let's cross our fingers on that. We talked at our break, too, about how things change. Change is the only constant, right? We always say that all the time. The beach is changing. It's not what it was in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. And when we talk about the expenditure of this $37.6 million, you mentioned the resiliency study. And, there are some, maybe residents that just want us to quick put sand on and call it a day. But that study is essential because of, the resiliency efforts that must come into play because the storms that we're having are much bigger.
So it does a data analysis. Where are your erosional hotspots? We did a kind of a post-mortem assessment of our cubic volume or our cubic yardage loss from the storm, and we lost 6.6 million cubic yards of sand. This wasn't just like a gracing breeze. This was a gut punch that left us crippled. We have to attempt to recover what we lost. Nature's doing a lot of it, but we can't take another one. Mm-hmm. You can take a storm like this, every decade, every century, but you can't. If we get another one this summer, it's going to be bad, and we need to have some contingency plans in place. And this will be a data-supported model that'll show priorities based on trend rates of accretion and erosion, and it will help identify the most critical areas to make sure that we're spending the grant funding the most effectively for the properties impacted.
Pretty. I know you put all those numbers out there, but that's a lot of sand. We'll take our last break and then come back and wrap up the show today with Niles and Jessica with the Coastal Division. Stay with us.
Looking to earn income and serve your community? Votran is now hiring and has a variety of career opportunities. Plus, Votran is offering a $1,000 hiring bonus and paid training for select positions. For a full list of job openings and to apply online, visit Votran.org. That's Votran.org. Next stop, Occupation Station. Gotta go. Driver, this is my stop. You can access Volusia County government online at volusia.org. Listen to county council meetings, pay for permits or tags, or search the property appraisers databases. Volusia.org is your Volusia County government information resource.
Welcome back. We're going to close out Volusia today with Jessica Fentress and Niles Cyzycki from the Coastal Division. You and your team, you are experts, you are engineers, you are scientists. You're doing your very best. Thank you for what you're doing. We know that this is a long haul. We'll definitely have you back on the show again very soon to give us another update. But I hope you're able to enjoy some little bit of time off that you can hopefully get.
Don't panic. It's organic. We're hoping the seaweed comes ashore. Take a bucket, pick up some trash, and if you got an easement, sign it so we can give you some sand.
And swim in front of a lifeguard tower that is staffed.
And go to the beach at low tide.
All right, with that, we'll close Volusia today. Take care, stay safe, and help your neighbors.
If you have a comment about Volusia Today, or if there is a topic you would like to hear featured, please contact Volusia County Community Information at 1-866-345-0345. Volusia Today is sponsored by Daytona Beach International Airport, Votran Public Transportation, Volusia Recycles, and the Ocean Center.